Today we're talking Wild West gunfight myths, things everyone absorbed from Hollywood. Low-slung holsters, high noon showdowns, and cowboys blasting 2 pistols at once. A few facts from real towns: Tombstone ordinances, cross-draw rigs, and short, messy fights flip the script fast. Want to know what's real and what's cinema nonsense? Let's dive in and separate legend from history. Myth number 1. Low-slung quick-draw holsters were standard on the frontier. The classic drop-to-the-thigh holster with a tied-down leg thong is more movie studio than cow camp. Early westerns and mid-century films glued that picture into everyone's heads. But the rigs real riders used were plain, high-riding scabbards that worked on horseback and didn't bounce loose on a trot. The buscadero, the low-slung belt with a cutout for the holster, shows up later with show business and stunt-friendly draw angles, not with trail crews pushing cattle. Cross-draw carry was common because it's easier to reach seated in a saddle. The Mexican loop pattern that most folks picture evolved mid-1870, and it still rode high on the belt. If you look closely at originals, a bunch look left-handed because they were built for cross-draw, not because the owner shot lefty. Oddly enough, belts and holsters didn't even have to match. Cartridge belts with sewn loops only became common after metallic cartridges took. You wouldn't guess it, but the shiny low rigs fans associate with John Wayne are closer to Hollywood wardrobe than to a ranch hand's gear. The wild part is modern reproductions keep the look alive because it's fun and photogenic. If someone actually wants a Buscardo today, street prices roam from about $100 to $350 depending on maker and tooling. Hollywood styles from custom shops can push past $300 in a hurry. To top it off, many shops label them outright as Hollywood rigs, which tells you where the design really took root. Think Hollywood nailed the Old West? Think again. From Tombstone's gun bans to quick chaotic shootouts, history tells a different story. Subscribe, hit like, and share with fellow Western fans. Let's bust more myths together. Myth number 2. Dual-wielding pistols was the smart way to fight. Funny enough, people did carry 2 revolvers, but not to blaze away like a stunt show. Gate-loaded single actions are slow to recharge, so the spare gun was a practical reload. You draw the second 6-gun when the first run's dry. Then, if there's time, you holster and sort the cartridges later. The men who shot for keeps favored controlled, aimed fire over theatrics. Trying to drive 2 one-handed pistols at once wrecks accuracy when the other side is shooting back. You might be surprised that period accounts talk more about keeping a cool head than about showboat tricks. What's more, pairing a revolver with a rifle was common sense. Ranchers and riders leaned on repeaters for reach and kept a sidearm as insurance. As it turns out, many paired chamberings, 44-40 in both rifle and revolver, so one cartridge fed both. Little did they know, they were seeding a century of same ammo campfire talk. The habit just worked on the trail. Modern folks who want the Old West vibe without the Old West maintenance often grab Italian clones. An Uberti 1873 Cattleman lists for around $650 to $800 depending on finish, while Cimarron's Frontier models often land in the mid-600s at regular street prices, with fancier engraved variants north of $1,000. If you look closely at builder pages, you'll see both companies pitch 44-40 options for that classic rifle-revolver pairing, because the logic still makes sense for range days. Myth number 3. One gun won the West. Now that I think about it, the slogan sounds great because it's simple. Winchester and Colt both leaned into those big stories. Winchester 73 gave a rifle top billing, and Peacemaker became a nickname that stuck to every sun-baked poster. Interestingly, production tells a more complex tale. Winchester 1873s rolled by the hundreds of thousands over decades. First-generation Colt single-action armies also ran high, but frontiersmen used what they could afford, what a freight wagon brought to town, and what solved their jobs. Smith & Wessons, Remingtons, Spencers, Henrys, and a pile of shotguns all wrote chapters. But people sadly overlook one tiny detail, the 44-40 cartridge. Winchester launched the cartridge with the 1873, and Colt soon stamped Frontier 6-shooter on revolvers chambered to match. So a rider can carry one kind of ammo for both guns. Cross-branding, right? It did more to shape habits than any ad slogan about a single wonder weapon. The West wasn't won by a lone iron, it was a toolbox, and the people who survived kept the tools that worked. For folks chasing the field today, you can buy reproduction 1873 rifles or originals depending on budget. Modern replicas and branded 1873 lever guns typically sit around the low to mid four figures new. Original carbines wander all over the map with condition, but average first model examples commonly list in the $2,000 to $5,000 band, while better grades climb fast. And as if that's not enough, new production single actions from Uberti or Cimarron slot in the $600 to $800 corridor most days, with fancy trims even higher. The Wild West wasn't all showdowns at high noon. Real fights were short, brutal, and bound by strict laws. Want more truth behind the legends? Like, comment your favorite myth, and subscribe for deeper dives. Myth number 4. Quick draw duels were routine. Noon street duels make for great cinema, but they weren't exactly a daily ritual like the movies would have you think. The shootout people often cite as proof, while Bill Hickok versus Davis Tutt gets famous precisely because it's unusual. Two men squared off in Springfield, Missouri at roughly 75 yards. Tutt fired first and missed. Hickok braced, took his time, and dropped one deliberate shot. The entire thing was seconds, not a back-and-forth ballet. And the town's records matter because there aren't dozens of matches like it in the books. Oddly enough, the scene that most folks imagine, close, fast, just yards apart, fits the average bar fight better than this long poke on a public square. What's more, real brawls were usually messy and unchoreographed. Ambushes, disputes that jumped the rail inside saloons, or sudden scrums that spilled into alleys. That's the day-to-day. If you carry a fixed sight single action, you already know the rhythm. Draw, present, see the front sight, press. The men who lived by guns learned that under stress, deliberate beats flashy. It just so happens that the only reason Hickok Tutt reads like a duel of honor is that it's the rare one that did. Springfield marks the episode with an official walking tour because the coroner's inquest papers are the gold standard account. That paper trail is part of why enthusiasts still talk about the stance, the distance, and the fact that Hickok rested his pistol before squeezing. The wild part is how hard it is to find another gunfight with those clean lines, which is the whole point. Myth number 5. Gunfights like the OK Corral were long, choreographed street duels. Little do Western enthusiasts know, the most famous street duel didn't happen inside the OK Corral, and it didn't last long. Tombstone's blast on October 26, 1881, kicked off in a cramped lot by C.S. Fly's photo studio off Vermont Street. About 30 shots ripped back and forth in roughly 30 seconds at distances so close that powder burns and horse bodies came up in witness talk. Believe it or not, the biggest fights we still reenact were fast, loud, and over almost as soon as they started. If you look closely at the record, gunsmoke and conflicting testimony muddy the start. Some said hands were up. Doctors and wound angles said otherwise. Now that I think about it, modern trainers' old shorthand, 3 seconds, 3 yards, 3 shots, actually maps better onto Vermont Street than any drawn-out, rule-bound duel. The wild part is how much the legend expands the stage and slows the clock, while the documents shrink everything back down to a panicked half-minute. And as if that's not enough, the spark was ordinance enforcement. Tombstone had a weapons law on the books. The Earps were determined to disarm men who refused to comply, and the confrontation spiraled. You might be surprised that enforcing a city carry rule, not an agreed-upon duel, is what brought famous names into pistol range that afternoon. Myth number 6. Fanning the hammer was how real gunmen fought. Fanning looks amazing on camera, and chews up steel on the bench. Slapping the hammer while holding the trigger cycles a single action fast, but it blows groups wide at any real distance. The old heads, who actually faced guns in anger, warned against it. Careful aim and one clean hit keep you alive more reliably than turning a revolver into a maraca. The showman who built the trick did it for applause, not for return fire. Early single actions rely on delicate hands, bolts, and springs to time and lock a cylinder. Repeated fanning can peen notches, stress springs, and turn a good 6-gun into a paperweight. What's more, that dramatic spin of the cylinder, another screen favorite, can hammer the same interval. Funny enough, the coolest moves are the ones likeliest to have you holding a broken shooter when it matters most. If you need a modern yardstick, think about the way experienced competitors and hunters still shoot fixed-sight single actions today. Firm grip, sight picture, clean press. You might be surprised that this slow is smooth approach puts more bullets where they belong than any speed party ever filmed. And if someone wants the look without the heartache, there's no rule against buying a second revolver for your range theatrics, and saving the tightest timed one for serious work. Uberti and Cimarron both have options hovering roughly $600 to $800, with upgraded finishes climbing from there. Myth number 7. Frontier towns let everyone open carry all the time. You wouldn't guess it, but many boom towns were stricter about in-town carry than some modern places. Tombstone's Ordinance Number 9, effective April 19, 1881, flatly banned carrying deadly weapons in city limits without a written permit or short leeway for travelers to check guns at hotels, stables, or to the sheriffs. Dodge City, Wichita, and other cattle towns had similar check your irons policies. As it turns out, that was a practical response to tight streets, cheap whiskey, and tempers that rose faster than the summer dust. What's more, the OK Corral fight people remember happened because men refused to disarm per the ordinance. Enforcing the rule pulled armed rivals into the same narrow space and the whole thing blew. The wild part is how the pop culture West flips that reality. Movies show sheriffs tolerating full belts in the boardwalk crowd, when the paper trail shows quite the opposite. Check the guns, have your drink, collect them on your way out. If someone wants to lean into the historical vibe today, modern leather makes it easy to split the difference between period-correct function and screen-inspired flash. A plain Mexican loop holster and belt can be found in the $100-ish lane from cottage makers, while carved sets run higher. True Buscadero Hollywood rigs frequently price in the high hundreds. To top it off, many of those catalogs say Buscadero right in the title, a quiet nod to where the look actually came from. Myth number 8. Revolvers settled most fights. Long guns were rare. Back in the days, the ugliest work often fell to shotguns and rifles, not revolvers. Coach guards and express managers leaned on short doubles for close-range authority, and ranch hands trusted repeaters for coyotes, rustlers, and distance problems a hip gun couldn't solve. Even at Tombstone, a short shotgun figured into the action. Long guns were tools first, props second. The day-to-day frontier favored what actually stopped a fight, not what looked best in a framed poster. Sidearms were personal kit you could keep under a coat. Long guns were community insurance. Town marshals breaking up barroom troubles or riding out to a ranch often thought in terms of reach and pattern. If you look closely at hardware lists from stage lines and freight outfits, the shotgun sits where you'd expect a wrench would in a mechanic's roll. It's just the right tool. Sadly though, we remember the pistol duels and forget the scatterguns because Hollywood's cameras made revolvers glamorous. And that's it for our breakdown of Wild West gunfights and the myths that still cling to them. If you've handled period-correct leather, shot a 44-40 pairing, or toured Tombstone streets, drop your experience down in the comments. We want to hear it. Hit like, share this with your range crew, and subscribe for more myth-busting firearm deep dives, history, gear, and content.